Yeah, I thought this would be pretty
So
close
it's,
though. I thought those two would be,
337,
because
something
the
like
private
that.
ones I thought would pay more often than the.
We are not waiting for Gene because he just left Concord, and so we're not expecting him to be here.
He is, however, available by phone. I would happily, if we need a vote for something, he will be
Okay.
available
If
to
he's
call
in
it.
range, we can call. If he's in range, he'll
Yep.
be happy to weigh in on it.
And I heard from Mr. Patch saying he wasn't going to be here, so.
Okay, so, but oftentimes he gets work obligations. I'll
So we had one of those too, we
leaving,
did it up.
no later than 4:45, because I have to be back in Berlin at 6, but, at any rate, very simple, straightforward agenda. Sue's put together some budgets, that's number one, so, you wanna give us the highlights of the budget?
I will. As you can see above the actual for 2017 and the budget for 2018, those are both drafts because we don't have all of our bills paid yet.
Sure.
And we don't have all the revenue that we're going to have, hopefully. It's level funding budget. It gets changed every year, so we figured we would just bring that column across, and if there's any questions or complaints about that, we can fix it. As you know, because I sent you an email, and I'm sure it was shared, we bought the new defibrillator this year out of the money because we had enough money, and we saved over $10,000 by doing that, so that the supply number is a little high. It's 36,198. That was 29 something. The new defibrillator. So, but we figured it was worth it to save $10,000.
Actually, they covered the $4,000 repair on the other one, which we get to keep now.
Right,
You said it was what, 26 for the new one?
29 something. I don't have it
29
exact.
for the new one.
I
Yeah.
think they list for 30-some, 36.
$37,900.
We're gonna break. We're gonna break with your good looks and handsome
Yeah,
face.
right. I Googled I guess you Googleize it, you know.
Looks like it was 2701.75 to be exact.
But back that number out, it's still,
It was
Supply
a
numbers are in line.
deal. We just couldn't pass up,
if you pull that out,
the
it's
$10,000.
in line.
And the regular expense account owed the donation from 2 years ago, the 11,611.49, which I paid. I actually put all of that money and the other money into a money market now, so that we have better access to it. Where it was in a C before, we couldn't break it, or if we did, they'd charge us a lot of money. So when it came due, I just put it all into a money market. And the payroll is pretty much on track of what we have one more payroll, and they run around $6,000 or $7,000. So we budgeted $120, and we've spent $97,723 so far this year. So that should be right on, pretty much. And everything else is pretty close to.
Can I ask a small question?
That's the big one.
Well, just for clarification and to have to bring this to someone else and explain it, would it make sense if we took the capital expenses, the new defibrillator, and showed it opposite from the budget and then put the actual in there so it wasn't under supplies?
We can.
It would make it more understandable for people to know what we're doing and how.
Right, that's fine. It technically goes under the donations. As you can see, I haven't got all of that information either, but that really should not be included in that because, oh yes it is. It is. It's included as an expense.
Well, we budgeted for it in 2017, so that's what it's under, right?
Yeah, we budgeted and it shows down below as
Right.
being for the new, but then when it comes to actual, I just think it should offset there and have it
I see what you're saying.
listed right next to it that's budgeted, it went out, and we're good.
Done, yep.
Okay. So do you want me to add it to the revenue section? Or do you want
Put
me
it
to-
down.
I have it right here.
think he
Yeah,
said
but
take it out of
draw that
supplies and
down
just
here,
put it in there.
across there.
Okay,
Actual new defib.
Yeah.
All right.
Then it's clear,
okay.
No,
cleaner.
whatever that, yeah.
Right, so then that's gonna reduce that.
Well,
But I don't have that.
reduce that one. He would reduce supplies.
You put it in supplies, right?
No,
Are you saying,
This-
you're
this
saying
is
put it
a-
right here where you
wait.
show it, the defib?
the defibrillator is in supplies.
Right.
I've got the wrong amount here. This is the donation account repayment. That isn't what you want me to put down there, is it?
No.
All I wanted to do
Capital
was,
funding.
instead of having it listed under supplies, I
Yeah.
wanted to bring it down so it's in its own line item down under new defibrillator, where you have the actual, the budget,
Okay.
to show that the actual expense went out there. So
Not
it's
out of supplies.
clouding
I see,
the
okay.
other line item.
Yeah, okay.
Because it looks like that one's artificially
Correct.
way too high.
Well, except that we did pay it out of the general fund. So it should have been under capital expenses, yes.
It is a capital expense.
But it comes out of the
our
general
general
fund.
fund.
Correct. I'll look at that.
Thanks. It just makes it a more.
No,
understandable.
absolutely.
We actually talked about that when we did.
Yeah, we did.
Anybody have any other questions for Sue in the budget?
How was it collecting?
Better.
It's up.
It's up.
So,
The number of runs.
Climate continues to be incredible.
Right, we have a lot that weren't, that
Little
Best
ball
way of
of
putting
it.
it.
couldn't be paid for. I think we had 239 that I could invoice and they were over. It was close to 500 rounds. But the rest
We're
of
gonna
them
be
were
on track
either.
for our 550-ish
Yeah,
again this year.
all right, so you're talking 250 or either lift assists or
Right.
accidents or toned out for fire standby or new.
And I still have not been able to pull those numbers the way I did a few years ago, remember? I can't pull those
Yeah,
numbers
this
to show our
is-
actual sort of the number of runs and the breakdown of how they go because of the nature of the software that they switched us to. I can't do it as easily anymore.
And the other thing we've been doing is a lot more of is police standbys. You know, for situations they get into, they're not sure where it's gonna go, so they'll have us, and sometimes it materializes to something that we'll transport, other times it doesn't. Extra people on scene if something goes wrong.
My concern of, it's not concern, my hope is that one, did you have enough time that we've budgeted for you to do this, that it's meaningful?
Yeah.
Or do you need more time?
No.
Or do we need to send it out to somebody
You need
else?
less time.
So that's what I'm trying to, I'm trying to get to the point. Did we hit it on did we do the right thing?
Yes.
And is it gonna work to keep going forward from your perspective? Is this good?
Unquestionably at this time, yes.
Good.
That's what I wanted.
And I don't think, I'm putting in like 10 hours a week, so I don't think it's gonna be as much as we had initially thought. I think, might be close, but I really haven't looked at it.
But I want it to be fair. I'm not looking to, I want
No, I
it to be
understand.
right.
But also
on.
understand that in this whole collections situation, the climate is challenging as
Oh,
far as
sure.
how much we can get back, because some of these companies just will not pay.
I understand.
The other thing is our crystal ball, and I don't want to get political here or anything, but part of proposed changes to the healthcare system
I've been fine.
was to take ambulance
Yeah,
services,
you guys to be
was to
doing-
take
yeah,
ambulance
yeah.
services out of those 10 items that were required that health insurance policies cover. I don't know if that's actually happened or not.
Well, the other side of that was they were also talking about making ambulance services doing home care to.
We're already doing that. We're
That is
deep into
happening.
already.
There's a potential for that to happen, but on the other side of that whole argument, they haven't created a way for you to bill for it.
Correct.
Right.
That's the problem.
They
Well,
call
we
this
already
par-
put-
They're
community
doing
paramedicine.
plenty of it.
Freebies,
Just
though.
know it's
Freebies.
They would like to do that so that they
Yeah.
reduce
But-
unneeded
Need to get
admissions to
paid.
the ER.
But the same people we do a lot of home, I just checked on 2 people on my way here. I brought one home from the hospital that we transported a couple times in the last couple of weeks. Brought her home and checked on another one that we brought in. So.
Oh, yeah, it's
you know,
all-
we do a lot of.
Oh, it's all for the great good, obviously.
Ultimately, it makes Jackson and Bartlett a much better place to live.
Absolutely.
And something
And
that's
all
not,
of you would do the same thing to your neighbors, that's all we're doing, so.
Yeah,
I agree with
something
you.
that's not in the numbers either is many times, for instance, Rick and I will end up doing it, and we don't put in for it, but if it's a Jackson or Bartlett resident that cannot get home any other way, we'll go and pick them up, bring them home.
Well, some of the things that are in the numbers before we move on from the budget is that Medicare last year total 45.6, this year to date 44.3, and we've still got plenty more to collect, so we'll be up with Medicare collections. Payments last year 52.4. This year to date 75.6. And
tough.
Sue, before the meeting, you said there was probably another 5 coming, or
Probably. I
So
still have a lot of.
we're way up, and we'll be up some more by close out of the year. So that shows that something is
It's
working
improving.
well, and if we hit the hours on the button, then that's good. Before we move off the budget, though, and start talking about anything else, is there anybody that has any more budget-related questions for Sue?
No, only in the fact that item 2 is very important to the budget, and that's part of it. So I think we're not.
Well, and so is item 3, but yeah, okay, so we're ready to move on to have a conversation around new ambulance versus second ambulance, then let's do that. Who wants to give us the rundown on where you guys stand with the ambulance need?
Well, we're 4 years overdue as far as what our original plan was, as far as replacing what we had. We haven't maintained it, so that it's probably still the best truck in the valley, bar none. It's got about 60,000 miles on it, due for some more service now. We put a fair amount of money into it last year, 4,000 and something.
Over 5,000.
And, between tires and routine maintenance and all the fluid changes and that kind of stuff. What I would like to do, and this is me, and I think pretty much Sue and Tom and Eric Peterson, who's not here, would agree with, is if we were able to get a smaller ambulance, first of all, they're less money, but we could get a 4-wheel drive Mercedes Sprinter for about half of what we can buy a big box truck for. Keep the box truck that we have, so we have 2 trucks. From the first of the year to yesterday, we had 28 runs that were toned on top of tones. In other words, a double run. We could have accommodated them with the crew that we had in town. We had enough personnel. So that translates into potentially more income. And the other thing, if we have 2 trucks, is as people get older and sicker, we could actually get into, and I don't want to compete with the people that do transfers out of Memorial, but with the status, as you know, the status of Memorial now, a lot of stuff's going to be shipped. Portland, Maine, for Maine Medical, for cardiac stuff. Orthopedics looks like it's going to go to Scarborough. And a few things are going down. The wound care center is now history. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to be able to transport maybe some of our locals,
Wound care history.
because they sold
Shut
all the
down.
stuff and moved it out in the middle of the night.
They shut it down during the summer.
It's gone.
Barrett,
I heard Barrett Chamber went.
Barrett Chamber went, Littleton Hill.
And actually, most of the nurses don't even know that today.
I'm on the Patient Advisory Council. I don't know that.
They forgot to tell you.
That's too bad because that really is.
And that was a good service. So we're seeing the potential to be able to help our residents in town. It's $3,800, or that was what it was 2 years ago, to go from Memorial to Portland. It's a lot of money. The Sprinter gets 20 miles a gallon. We've got a few paramedics kicking around in our back pocket now that can jump in if we need a medic run. We've got some critical care nurses that are around fairly frequently. One in Jackson, Brad Boehringer is a flight medic, critical care nurse. So we do have the ability to do some significantly ill people.
And I would add
Transport.
that's something we would offer Bartlett and Jackson
Yeah,
residents. Not compete against the privates,
Right.
but people from,
Unless we brought something in, say, from a ski area that was ours, that
Whatever.
would like first right of refusal. And that could generate some more money, and it's a whole new potential. And it gives us an extra truck in town if something happens, mass casualty, we've got the ability to step up and do that with another truck. That's my thought.
Can you give us the sticker price on the Mercedes Sprinter
Dear
roughly?
To put gear in, it's about 130-ish.
130, 140.
I guess-
Bare bones, it's 90 some.
Yeah, Beer Bones around 90.
130 versus the
180
a
empty.
big ambulance would be
180
180 empty.
for the PL.
And 130 is fully tricked out.
Right.
Pretty much.
So I
And
think
we've got
those
the
are,
defibrillator, so that expense.
The biggest items being a defibrillator and the cot that we use in the back. We've
So
already
should
got
I
the
be changing
defibrillator,
that
so.
to 130? I thought you told me one. Should I be changing that capital expense to 130 instead of 140?
Well, I remember the number being 140 when we worked it out.
Oh, okay.
Well, we've already got the defibrillator, so it may be.
Right, but this was just the other day.
so
Well, there's still a power.
Oh, I'm gonna leave it.
16.
I remember hearing a lot of this last year, but I also remember that as an ambulance committee, we were kind of hearing it for the first time
At the budget.
at the budget hearing. And so we've had a year to
This is-
understand that. There's a small ambulance option out there, so none of this is new information for us. We've already raised in Jackson, is that the 63.5 that you're showing here, or that's
You've already put aside 45.
Yeah, I thought it was 45, yeah.
We've put aside 45, and then you're going to
Bartlett
have,
supposedly put aside 50.
your
last
math
year.
has us at 63.5 per town.
Right.
Right, that was
So to
included the
bring up
defibrillator
Jackson's
and
share
the
would be a
90,000,
20.
So
And
it's
to,
not,
or to bring up Jackson's share would be 25 and Bartlett's would be 20.
If I may, what I think, what happened last year from my perspective at the table was it came in as, it was almost a last minute, this is a thought
We've talked about
process.
this is the fourth year we've talked about this. We've been trying to get this meeting since last January,
Yes,
boys and girls.
I know, it's in,
So,
I agree. It should I asked for as well, more frequent, and it's
Right.
been unable to.
We
be
had, if
scheduled.
you remember, we had a couple of meetings. We had a meeting before the budget.
Right.
And that's when we first, we had come to you because we wanted to get your guidance on where to go with new ambulance versus two ambulances. And it was not resolved at that point.
But let me
Then it went to the budget, and that's where.
Let me finish the thought that I was going with it, though. It came out across that it didn't come across with a lot of good data of this is the reason of the need, these are the call counts for the need, this is how and why. It was more of an idea, which is a good idea, and may be well thought for future planning.
Right.
But to justify more the need for it is what needs to come to the committee for this next coming budget.
Well, on that question, there's two needs. One, this truck should be replaced, whatever, so that's a real need. And you're 4 years out of cycle, okay, as far as a normal fleet replacement. The other is that we've been keeping track, as I say. I've not been able to pull the numbers from the state, our run numbers as to how many we turf and that kind of stuff, which would give you
20.
actuals. He's been keeping track of how many that has, so that's the best evidence we have for that.
Right. But what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we're going to keep the one, it's still usable, it's still viable, but we're going to add something else to take the weight off
Take
of
the
part
pressure-
of it,
take the pressure off, so
and
we can-
then increase.
Sure.
And I think your logic and your direction is fine. I'm not opposing it. But to get to the point where we say in the budget, getting to it, we have to have more in hard paper to back it up. This is why, this is the numbers, this is where we're going. If we don't do this, this isn't going to last. It needs just to be more work into.
We need to have
Proposal.
it ahead of time too, because I can remember last year, it was like we got to the end and it was like, we don't know what. Jackson has raised the money and had the money for a couple of years, but we didn't get the idea that Bartlett was going to raise the money, or if they were, it was.
well, Bartlett's never raised the money, they've always just written the check when we need it.
and the reality of the whole thing is that we are 4 years out of cycle. We're supposed to trade it every X amount of years. We're 4 years out, and we knew it last year, we knew it the year before. We didn't, the year before, we didn't talk about keeping this one. Things have kind of changed in the valley. Our backup used to be very reliable because they had like 4 trucks. They're now down to 2.
Staff, only one staff. Yeah, 2
Okay,
trucks, only
one
one
staff.
staff.
So that kind of puts our ability to respond to something that they normally would we're right out of the loop. The reality of how much this one is worth if we trade it in is minimal.
Yeah.
So to us, it makes
Yeah,
more
we
sense
own
to keep it.
Yeah.
and get the smaller one to do all the heavy work, and then the other one to do transports.
And so that you're thinking the older one stays in the valley and does local stuff would be the way to describe
And as a
it.
backup.
And so it's, the replacement's 4 years overdue, we own it outright, it's in better shape than most every other ambulance in the valley, and it makes sense to keep it. And I know it's kind of rigged in a few spots based on what I've heard about it in the past, but you're keeping the thing mechanically sound and running good, and so that's the proposal that's before us. Obviously, if we've already raised 45, our town will need 18.5 more. I don't think there's an issue with
Yes.
our townspeople supporting that.
And your staffing is up to par that you have,
Well,
because
could it be
last
better?
time
Could be.
was, we didn't have enough staff, we were worried about.
Well,
If you don't need a
Goes up and
medic
down.
on board, can you send just a driver?
No, you have to have 2 EMTs on the truck to go.
2
You
EMTs?
need a medic when it's a critical care transfer. In other
or,
words,
or you get a nurse out of the hospital. That's a different.
one of the medications that they're literally running through the tube has to be able to take care of those medications.
But he also said, it's like, what's the round trip
Oh, it's-
cost? 37?
38.
At least.
That's just one way for them to be transported.
At least.
But the other side of that, for those of you that spend a little time in the military, if we haul a TRICARE patient, we get nothing.
Yeah.
TRICARE doesn't pay us.
We
You know,
have-
everybody's very
but-
proud that we're veterans and we got TRICARE, and we're happy that they do.
We have 3 or 4 people who are medics that are potentially available to us now. Brad Barrigu, who used to spend not as much time in the valley, is now spending much more time in the valley. He's here for two days a week. He's a flight nurse with Lifeline. We have
Really
Christine Beers and Dave Tauber around as well. Those are both 2 more medics. So they're available to do that.
Eric,
We
we
also-
also occasionally run as a physician's assistant.
We also keep pulling in, a half a dozen to a dozen people from recruiting from solo. Kids who just finished class who come on board and ride with us.
So I don't know if the question is for you, Rick, or you, Tom, or whatever, but is that 130 cost for the Mercedes Sprinter? Has that been updated since last year, or was that what we had last
much.
year?
I mean,
So that-
We stay pretty much in
Yeah.
tune. I talk to
Yeah.
the different sales reps most of the time, and those numbers are still pretty solid.
Okay.
They go up a little bit, maybe not a little bit. We can probably save money on a power cut if we do it maybe on the internet or maybe directly through Stryker versus through a dealer or something like that. So if you save $1,000 here, $1,000 there, it adds up. To keep the, and this, if you guys said we want you to have one truck, we'd go back to the big box.
Right, that's the other option.
That's the other option.
Get a new
Yeah,
box.
I get a very similar box because we still do a significant amount of carryouts. We still do a lot of cold weather stuff up in the notches, and we can carry
Need that
Stokes
equipment.
litters, climbing gear, and that kind of crap that most ambulances don't carry.
Right.
But the big box is that's definitely a bonus to living in the valley where they ski and everything else. And it's,
That's basically a decision, go back,
I mean,
get a new one of those,
we wanna have
or
one
get
truck, I'd go
a second
back
one
to
to
the
transport. Eventually, you're gonna have to get a big one.
I think the one we've got, as long as we can maintain it and maybe baby it a little bit, becomes smart fleet management. That's where I'm coming from.
Does that sound? We have more questions. I guess my question is, how does that logic sound to us? I mean, it sounds pretty solid to me, but I'm just one person.
I think that's great. I think what this committee needs to do is the committee needs to vote and decide that, we think this is a good idea, and then task you with it to go back and say, all right, now put it into a proposal instead of figure numbers, now get the numbers and say, if we want you to replace it with a big box or go with your idea with a fleet and move forward.
Well, you have to do that quickly. I mean, it has to be done before the end of the year.
I understand that.
Okay,
The
good luck with it.
That's why I'm throwing it out, because we don't have the people at the table right now to make that vote. We could certainly make a phone call and bring Gene into the equation, and then if we can get his, I would vote in favor of what we're doing, but I only have two votes required from the town of Barker.
Right.
Well, worst case scenario is that we buy the smaller one and it doesn't pan out money-wise. We can sell the old one. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's like the best of both worlds as far as I'm concerned. But
Well, and then you're going to have 2 fully outfitted trucks too. So, and that may increase interest in maybe people joining Bartlett Fire. I don't know. Might. Jackson has it called somebody gets a deer they end up with. How many people the other night? 11?
I'm sorry?
How many guys you had the other night on that deer head? I think it was 11. It's not going to happen in Bartlett. I mean, these guys, the Jackson guys really jump in. We're trying to talk Peter Benson, and can I say this?
You can say whatever you want.
I hear a bus coming.
I get along pretty well with Emily, so I will say we're trying to talk Peter Benson and Beth Dyer into becoming EMTs. And we're going to try to work with them and subsidize that to a certain degree because Jackson Fire has been really good to us. Beth has got some skills like
Beth will be an incredible
she'll
addition.
be an incredible resource, and Peter has been already an incredible resource. And I think the combination with the Carroll County Coalition and a few other things, it really has enhanced our ability to help people on a low-cost level. We can start doing stuff, and we got to figure out how to charge for this. An example, yesterday we took a guy in that needed a catheter. We knew he needed it, he knew he needed it, they forgot to tell the ER what's going on. We negotiated with the ER, listen, we'll just take him right to Dr. So-and-so's office. We can do this, and it's going to save how much money? It saves $2,400 to the system, the whole system, not us necessarily.
Right.
But to go just right to the doctor's office to get admitted to do that. We've done that a couple of times this week. And
I'm going to call him so we can at least get him in.
So before we get too far away from the first versus one ambulance versus second ambulance proposal, it sounds to me like we've all got a pretty decent handle on the idea, and it seems like it's got support around the table. So if we can get Gene on the phone to kind of run by the parameters of this, not to have to rehash everything, but to explain to him where we're at with this Sprinter, the Mercedes Sprinter, fully loaded, 130 versus 180 for a stripped down big one.
We're looking for a vote from the committee to back one of two ideas, to either replace a new
Right.
ambulance or to get the lighter one at less money and give the
And
other
then
one.
have a two ambulance fleet.
No,
Then send you-
the other cost is obviously insurance for the truck. Interestingly enough, the Sprinter's worth, because we got replacement costs on the big truck. The Sprinter's worth less even brand new. So they said that would be relatively insignificant.
It's probably not even gonna be
If you shut the
$1,000.
camera off, I'll tell you what to do.
And the liability we've already got anyway.
Right.
So you can relate this.
Be on speaker, Mr. Chairman, and we'll make sure that everybody...
There's
Sir, you're on speakerphone at the meeting. Do you have a moment? We have the ambulance crew here doing a great job presenting their budget, giving us updates on collections. We've come to a decision that we do need a vote on, and that's why we're calling you. We're looking for a decision on ambulances. We talked last year about replacement of an ambulance or the idea of an addition of a smaller ambulance to take the heat off of the bigger box that we have for less money and run the two, and that's where we're at. So we were looking from the committee standpoint of, do we give a blessing that we think it's time to just replace box for box, or we like the idea that they presented last year and want them to go further to then now turn it into a budget, bring in real numbers, get the complete costs on it, and then vote at that point in time to accept it or not. So, you,
You need to do that now, but I guess I think we need to hire a new ambulance, but I vote just, I guess, go status quo, and that's my position.
you would vote only to replace the brand new ambulance for the one that we currently have instead of going for the smaller addition.
Right, I guess I'm convinced we need to do one. I guess I'm hopeful that that's what we need. I think we do need one, that's all we've asked, right?
Would you like to hear a little more information from the table before you definitively make that vote?
Oh, we don't have a motion yet.
Well, I don't, yeah, I guess.
Do you want to add anything to?
180 versus 130.
Okay.
Just the cost.
All right, that's okay.
I don't know, that's just what I thought.
So, Gene, the idea of instead of replacing and trading in the old ambulance that gets us a new big box that stripped down at 180,000 that then we'll need to fully equip. Instead of doing that, keeping it around for local trips within the valley and buying a smaller Mercedes Sprinter type ambulance that we can earmark for transports. And that smaller ambulance, completely fully equipped, would be 130,000 versus the 180 stripped down. We got to finalize that number still. It's kind of the same conversation we had a year ago. We haven't had a motion put forward yet to vote on. It seemed like the prevailing thought around the table was it would make more sense to keep the old one. It's fully paid for. It's still in decent enough running shape. And then add a new one, the smaller one, for less money than a big one would cost. So it would actually cost taxpayers less to add the smaller one this year.
20 miles a gallon.
And the mileage difference relatively substantial as well. It's 20 miles per gallon for the new Mercedes Sprinter versus 8 miles a gallon for a big box ambulance. So we haven't had a motion to vote on yet, but that's as simple and straightforward a rundown as I could come up with. Does anybody think I missed any high points on that?
Yep.
I'd make a motion that we purchase the new smaller ambulance and hold on to the old one.
Okay. Anyone want to second that?
Second.
Okay. So there's the motion and the second. Who has comments or anything else to add on it? John? Dick? Rick? Tom? Sue? Gene?
So, I don't have any comments.
Okay. All right. Call for the vote then. All those in favor of purchasing the smaller ambulance, the Mercedes Sprinter, say aye.
Well, to put the numbers together, yes, yes.
They'll fall within that range.
Yes,
This is an advisory.
correct.
Right.
Okay. John?
Aye.
Dick?
Is this a vote to purchase one of the working numbers?
No, the vote is to put the numbers together for we needed to give them the guidance of what to bring to the table for the budget, which of the two ideas we wanted them to finalize the numbers for us to then vote on for the budget. So this is just giving the guidance of which idea we want.
I will vote to do that because I think in order for me to make an informed possible no vote, I would need the numbers to go by. I don't have a problem with getting some numbers up there. That's something.
Right.
Everybody
I
clear
don't
on?
know yes on that motion.
Everybody clear on what we're voting on then?
Yes.
Okay. And everybody votes yes.
Everyone at the table. Oh, and I think you...
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Get those numbers updated and finalized, and we'll be good to take a look at them.
Gene, do you have any other questions of the committee or the ambulance folks that are here on any other item? We had just...
No, you can tell me in on that later. As I said, I'm fine on that. I was voted yes on that vote, right?
You recorded yes on that vote. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent, Jim.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Yep, good night.
All right. There's the direction. Hopefully, everybody feels like is clear.
Okay. So everybody's aware that this needs to be in.
Yeah, I'll get these numbers, I'll have them tomorrow.
Right.
Great.
And then you, as a committee, can meet.
Well-
Can you do it by phone?
Or do you want to just do it in your normal budgetary process, your budget workshop?
Well, we've already done the budget, essentially.
Correct, but we still have to have the budget workshops where we come in front of them and give them these numbers in front of the public.
Right, it has to be publicly.
Okay, and then you can that's when you can have your yay or nay on the final say of it. Does that sound like a plan?
Excellent.
Are you sure it's on the timeline or something? I mean, this has to all be into Julie by the first part of February.
Yeah, right. We'll be there.
Okay, I'm just,
We'll be there
I
by
just
then.
know how difficult it's, we've been asking for a meeting
Well,
for a
you-
year, and I'm just concerned that this is still.
Absolutely.
We're good under pressure, Sue. We're good under pressure.
Okay.
And I wanted to say for the record, me, have let you down in the fact that I was wholeheartedly expecting to have more frequent to be able to give guidance and on how things were going.
Right.
And I'm not casting blame as the fact of trying to get everybody together at the table, because you have not gotten a continual stream of communication from the whole committee.
Yeah.
I
We
apologize.
worked together a couple times. We met a couple
Right.
times to
It's
talk
been
about
John.
stuff.
John's the one that's let
That's
you down.
correct.
The rest of us have been right there with you the whole time, and it's really been John that's dropped the ball on it. So I'm not going to argue.
Well, John has been doing
Get your mouth shut.
probably 70% of our ambulance meetings.
Probably.
We missed a good one last night.
I know.
We did a program called Stop the Bleed, which is the Hartford Consortium that came up with it after Sandy Hook. And it's a public program that we learned how to do last night. We'd like to bring it to the schools. I'd like to bring it to Bartlett, Kennett, maybe even Jackson.
90%
And
of
it's-
deaths in those events
Can be
happen
prevented.
in the first 5
3
minutes
minutes.
and they're completely out.
From
Absolutely.
Bleed Out. Oh,
And it's a
So
good
it's
program.
teaching people how to put tourniquets on quick.
interesting.
We did that with the Jackson Police a while ago. At one point, but
I have a tourniquet in my bag, right in my strap.
I'm not
anybody that hunts should have one. Yeah.
I'm not sure what we need to talk about as far as status of collections,
We
because it
did
seemed
kind
like
of-
we went over that when
Doing
we went
better.
over the budget.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that has anything to add on that?
Still more money to
My
come.
question to Sue
We
was
just
how
don't
she
know.
felt, and if
Yeah.
she was feeling that she had
Okay.
sufficient time was where I was
So
going
we're
with it.
feeling good about that. All those in favor of making David Patch the person in charge?
Aye.
The ayes
Motion
have it.
carries.
Okay, so we're on other business.
You got here right at the right time, but
We did have a telephone call with Mr. Chandler, and we had one technical vote on the direction to give for the formal budget on whether or not to replace out the ambulance box for a new equal size, or to go with the proposal they did last year and bring in the numbers for the secondary smaller to offset, which may be cheaper for us in the long run. But the committee gave the guidance with June, everyone voted in the yay to have them go forward and finalize the numbers for the smaller unit, and then
Keep the old.
keep the old one for life and see if it works. So that's,
Just remember, we're gonna officially vote on keeping it
correct.
after the numbers are
Right.
in. We didn't vote to keep it yet.
Right.
But that was the guidance to go forward with, formalize it.
Great. Payments are up substantially on the budget, and that was the good news we started the meeting off with. The extra hours Sue's been working seem to be paying off.
Nice.
Pun intended, I guess. But so other business. What else do we
The
have?
budget is level, I guess that was the other thing,
Right.
2017.
Right, we just decided to level fund it rather than to try to. It's always just it's a guess. I mean, we know for a fact
The
that
supplies.
the insurance is going to go up.
Is way up because the defibrillator cost is
Yes.
up there, and they're gonna move it down here, so it'll.
Match up.
Who has more business?
I think we should come up with something. You just got here, so.
I know, we gotta come up with something.
I'm not doing a need, but if anybody else is.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you all for all you do.
Yes,
I know the extra work that you all do for the community, and it's important and it's meaningful, and
we know you all know it, and we all appreciate that.
There was some talk a bit ago amongst us about a membership. There are some people who use the ambulance a lot, and we can't really bill them unless we bill them directly. We can't bill the insurance, but there are some that they probably gone 20 or 30 times to, and it's a lot of things have been tried to be finagled to make it so that doesn't happen. You know, guiding them to get additional equipment and that type of thing. But at the time, we were kind of running around with if we had a membership fee. say you paid, $500 a year, or whatever you came up with, and then you
Season
get-
pass?
Yes. Similar to that. A lot of communities do it, so that you either get a cut rate on on the calls that you have, and your insurance doesn't get billed, or you don't, or you pay nothing. I don't know.
Or you could probably do it as a donation and write it off.
Right.
So other communities do it.
Uber
Yeah,
EMS.
they have a membership. Actually, Brad Bolinger's mother was.
Well, that was in Pennsylvania, and there's a downside to that, because I lived in Pennsylvania. If you live in a certain county, like Montgomery County overlaps in other counties, so you might pay fees to two different departments, and there might not be anybody available, and comes down the stairs. So there's ups and downs to it. There are places like Sun Valley that for $25, you support the local helicopter system. So if you need to fly because you got beat up at the ski area or have a heart attack, your flight is paid for with your card. You got to have it in advance. You can't pay for it. It's a big budget. That's based on numbers. I don't think we get the numbers here. I think we got a lot of people that couldn't pay.
Well, that could be bad. I mean, it was just a thought to maybe gather revenue, or the other thought was that we bill these individuals a certain amount, even if they don't get transported. Their insurance wouldn't pay for it.
We're coming to that at the government level with the, we actually call it was originally called community paramedicine. We sort of call it community outreach, is what we're doing more than not. And we'll do a lot to help a lot of people. Many times when people call, rather than call an ambulance, I'll have them call me at midnight. Rather than wake everybody up, I'll go pick somebody up that we know is not hurt. It's just, is stuck in the toilet or something. And I've done that at least 40 times on my own time in my own car. And that doesn't get reported, doesn't get recorded. So if the numbers are real, it'd be higher than that, but it would be a non-rev thing. To me,
Right.
it's just a little bit of
Right.
gas.
Well, I think, hearing an idea like that and knowing other communities do it, I think what helps me as a member of the committee is to know that you guys have had this discussion and you're bringing it forward to the committee as a recommendation, and give us the brief kind of overview of what it would look like and why you think it's a good idea, and then
I'm sort of saying I'm in the middle of it. I've lived it, I've paid it, I've not had it work well for me in my situations. If you're healthy and you don't get hurt, you pay, I forget what it was, I think it's $75 per person per household.
We don't mind going to that one or two particular house 25 or 30 times a year, but there are some people who might mind that. Do you know what I'm saying? Listening to it over the radio or whatever.
And you do a lot of work, a tremendous lot of work that people that we don't know about, and that is great for the community. But on the other side to that is, if something goes wrong,
I got my bed sense, believe me.
you shouldn't have to be covering the problem, because you are representing the town in your expertise, your training, and everything else.
We have a whole different insurance plan than you guys got.
I know about it. I just want to make sure that everything that you're doing does need to get documented, and we need to know as a committee, and the townspeople need to know what the true volume of the work that you're doing.
No, it's all documented. I mean, there's always a run sheet on it.
But if you're picking people up and going and helping them from their home,
If
taking them to the
somebody
hospital,
calls you from the hospital, like if you're in the hospital and
Yeah.
you call, I need a ride home, I'm going to do that. Anybody that we do, I'll pick up and bring home.
but that's still getting documented through the system.
Sometimes it is, yeah.
It
It should be all the time.
all the time.
It should be to show true costs.
Yeah.
But see, then, instead of me taking an hour at midnight to go deal with something, you're giving me a 3-hour task because I gotta go to temp systems.
Oh, I'm not saying you have to do a census report.
Well, that's a
I'm saying you just have to record it somewhere and give us that data. I mean, obviously, we don't have to put it through the system for
It's like
exactly.
fire alarm activations. I don't get on the radio and say, I'm going to a fire alarm activation, I know it's a false alarm. I know I'm going to pick up somebody that's not hurt. I'm willing to.
No, we just like to have true numbers. I think that's the idea. I don't think it has to go through census to, create the paperwork. We don't want to make it more difficult for you.
I want to have a true understanding, and that they get credit for the true volume of calls and work that they are doing.
A
Exactly.
sort of related item and a way that you could support us as a group, and not needing to raise controversy or anything. If for some reason we are hurt on the job, killed on the job, we get basically an attaboy as EMTs. We
You get a letter from
we get an attaboy
government.
from the state. If a firefighter is killed on the job, they get something
You
close
get
to
life insurance.
$400,000
No,
line of
320.
death, $330,000 line of duty death benefit. The state EMS has been trying to get that equalized. And if you guys wanted to write a letter supporting that, saying that you support that kind of thing for us, that'd be really big.
Is it an actual bill before the House now? Or
They're
is-
working to they're trying to get it there. If you wrote a letter of support saying, we think this is something you should do, give the EMS people the same kind of benefit if they're killed. We were talking about the Stop the Bleed thing. They're pushing us to go into hot zones or war zones. And I took the course and I said, it's great, but when you give us the line of death penalty, then I'll go in. But until you do, I'm not going in. If you wanted to write a letter as a group, as the two, and say, please do this for these people, that'd go a long way with us.
And maybe the other thing would be to expedite state police background checks.
Those are
Takes up to
big
6
problems.
weeks, and then they lose the fingerprints, and then you gotta pay for those again, and then you gotta, I mean, it's just a lot of fees that we're paying out.
Whether we need a
First year,
licensure.
We need from you something in writing that says when it occurs, that you've had a background check, that you've waited, whatever, give it to us when it happens and document it, because we have no control over it. The only thing we can do is then to go down through Concord into Hazen Drive and put them on notice saying, hey, we're running into the problem and we've documented it.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason that they're doing it the way they're doing it. And it's
Well,
not-
we have people that are willing to work right now.
Well, I get no
They've got
problem with
6 or
money,
8
they take
weeks.
the money, and then they lose the paperwork, which they've done a bunch. And we got a bunch currently right now in limbo. The kids come up and take solo courses.
Well, the money issue is the fact that you could do it right at one PD here and get the answer directly because they have the terminal.
Right,
But they took it, so the state gets the
that's
fee, and
correct.
you have to wait for them to
Right.
write
I
the terminal.
called them on that the other day, and they were real happy that I did, but I called
Told
them
them
on
what
that.
it is.
But I don't care that they charge you $47.
When they want
I do care when the state wants records from me, but I can't bill them $25 a record. Like when Health and Human Services demands records, we're gonna bill them, because he said, you call your lawyer. I said, I did, and the lawyer said, bill them. You know, everybody else gets a bill, see where it goes. So we're gonna do that. But you get into this conundrum of, you got a kid that spends $3,600 to go to a solo program for a month or a little longer. They take the course, they pass the course, they come to us, would like to live in Bartlett, we might ski, we might work with the ambulance, we might do this. We have 3 or 4 in the wings now.
Cute right
That's
now.
3
And we got a kid that might want to be a police officer. We're busting our ass here, working with students, trying to get somebody that wants to live and stay here. This is a pretty cool place to live, a good place to raise kids and stuff. And we're trying, and one of them said, geez, I just rented an apartment, and we can't seem to get me licensed because of this background thing. And it's, you know,
It
it's
used to
gotta be
take us
more
less than
efficient.
30
You
days
can
to
do it on the
get a license.
internet in about 2 minutes, you know.
You just gotta give it to us when you have a problem and then document it.
Do you want names and documentation?
Yeah, when it happens, hey, we put in a record check for this individual, and it's now been X amount of weeks. and we haven't
What
done
happens
it.
is
Now we can go down
we
to
submit
the current.
the entire package with a release for a criminal check. Once they get it, they do the background check. That's what's taking so long. It used to take us between 15 and 30 days to get somebody licensed.
We used to be able to do it in
Now,
5 days.
almost, yeah, we used to be able to do it in 5. It's now getting into like the 6 to 8 week.
That's crazy.
And then if somebody spent a lot of money and spent their nest egg, and then they want to rent an apartment, they spend more, and all of a sudden they can't work yet. It's like,
We knew somebody in the state legislature that could step into this one, because that's where it needs to
I wish we
change.
could.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And I'll bring that up.
As someone who used to work in a state EMS office, we used to dread those phone calls.
one of the suggestions I had to the state was maybe it should be front-end loaded on background checks before you become an EMT. Maybe you should be proven that you haven't killed anybody.
Before you take the course.
We need to come together again with finalized numbers for the ambulance proposal and make a formal vote to support that. And we need to do it relatively early on in January.
Yeah.
If we're not going to try and squeeze something in before Christmas. And I'm not. Does anybody feel like we should squeeze something in before Christmas, which would probably need to be around before the 19th or 20th of December? Or shall we move out to...
I would like to, so I can put this to bed, because otherwise, you know,
It's
get up,
I think it's on
then
them
if,
on getting the numbers.
right, and then if that,
I can never
if that
come
early
up
date
with-
falls through, then.
Rick said he can have the numbers tomorrow, so.
I got the
Legitimate numbers for
This is the
the
Thursday, the seventh.
Right.
equipment and everything.
Right.
We're gonna do it one day.
Do you want to try and set a time and then run it by Gene and see how he can do with it? Anybody have an issue with trying to put something together?
I haven't got all my shopping done yet.
What do you need, John? What is it?
What are you talking about?
A gift certificate for a free ride on the ambulance. There
you go.
It'll help the towns, it'll help.
There you go. That's what you
Well,
got. Gift certificate.
I asked the question, I didn't throw one out. How about if I throw out then a date, not hearing one? You want to go for a week from today at 4:30?
Sure, the 14th.
I'm in Berlin till 3, but
So we get a selectmen's meeting next Thursday.
December 14th.
That's right.
At 3:30?
right. Well, that starts at 4.
Right.
We start if we well, that's tight. That's tight.
3:30 would work better for me.
3:30 is fine. I don't think we have, if we just had that one topic on the agenda, we don't digress.
3:30.
Like we always do.
I'll make it work. So right here then, right before our meeting, we'll meet at 3:30. You'll have finalized numbers. We've already read the proposal. We're on record of supporting the idea. We'll have the numbers. We'll be ready to vote. Start the meeting on time at 4.
Good.
Sound like a plan? Excellent.
Oh, your regular meeting.
Yeah.
Our regular.
Our meeting is at 3:30.
3:30 for us.
Yeah. Okay, final thoughts. Anybody?
I make a motion that we adjourn our meeting.
Anything from the public? Anything from the public?
I hate it.
Anything from the public before we close? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.